today we're here with our friends from Dedham Savings for Friends Against Fraud. Thank you all for coming and for the really, really delicious treats that you brought from Roach Brothers. I'm going to introduce you to our first friend, Carol Lewis, who is the Vice President of Compliance. Senior Vice President of the, yeah. And she'll introduce the rest of the friends and do her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And I was saying to my colleagues here that, frankly, I don't have time to work because I'd like to go to the chocolate tasting next week and movies. So I'll be in the back row at the movies tomorrow. So Laura, just let everybody know I'll be out sick tomorrow. That would be, yeah, don't push it. Anyway, good afternoon. So glad to have you here. I'm Carol Lewis from Dedham Savings. Happy to be here with all of you to talk about fraud. And I want to introduce you, though, to our team here. We have been a bit of a road show, if you will. We've been going around to various councils on aging to talk about this very important topic. And obviously, you think it's important, too, because you're here. And you didn't know we had pastries beforehand. So I know that's the reason you're here. Anyway, to my left, Gina Petrowski. She is a security officer at the bank, AVP and security officer. To my right is Laura Hickson, also a security officer. She runs the department. She's the VP. And then we have Kim Matea here. Some of you may know Kim. She is the branch manager here in Walpole. So we're all here to talk about fraud. And the interesting part is that, so Laura and Gina work together. And I'm not in their department, but I can throw a ball to their office, so I'm pretty close by. But we work in different departments, but we share the same responsibilities, and that is to keep the bank safe and to keep our customers safe. And so that's why we are on the road now to talk to folks about fraud, because this is really a problem, as you know. And we are here to tell you what's going on in terms of fraud out there in the world, or in our area at least, and then what you can do to protect yourselves from these fraudsters. And we have here today probably about 30-some people, which is a fantastic turnout for us. We appreciate you being here. But we hope that you will take this information out to others in your community or in your families or in your neighborhoods. This is important stuff, and we every day hear about people being defrauded because, well, for whatever reason, these fraudsters are amazing at what they do. And it doesn't matter how educated you are, how old you are, your demographic, how much money you have, we are all fair game. And we have some very sad circumstances, and we'd like people to avoid them. So that's the intro. Let's get moving, right? So what is fraud? So this is a long slide, and you can read it, and we can provide you with the slides. But basically what these fraudsters are doing is trying to separate you from your money, okay? They find all kinds of ways to do it. From your money, and not just your money, but also from what we call your non-public personal information, your financial information, because they use that information to get your money or others' money. So that's generally what fraud is. And as I've said already, these guys or gals are quite good at what they do, and they do it in many, many, many different ways. And the channels that through which they perpetrate fraud vary. So in person, right? Maybe they show up at your house or your apartment, on the internet, right? Through the computer, through email, social media, through the telephone, right? Any way that they can communicate with you, through the mail, right? So lots of ways for them to try to get to all of us. So who's at risk? Well, we all are, right? But here's a list of the most vulnerable groups. And unfortunately, the top of the list is us, right? The seniors. So why is that? Why do you think seniors are most at risk and they're the biggest target? Anyone? Yes.
They can be reached easier.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sure. Because they maybe are at home more often?
They're home more often, and
Yeah, absolutely. Other reasons.
We get confused.
We get confused. Yes, that could be true too. Yes, sir.
They grew up with a sense of trust.
Sure. Grew up with a sense of trust that probably a lot of people don't have anymore, but we can talk about that another day. Yes? You know what? You're right. And I hear that every group we've gone to, there has been that response. We're too nice, for sure. We listen, right? We like to interact. We are patient, right? What else? Did you have one? Did you? No? Who's yes. We have money. Okay. There you go. What? We have children and grandchildren. Right, sure. So there are lots of scams involving them, and there's a lot more information out about us because of those children and grandchildren who like to put a lot of information out on social media and stuff like that, right? So lots of reasons, right? So seniors tend to be more a vulnerable group. You know, it may be gullible, perhaps, but I think trusting might be a better word. And also, sometimes we're isolated, and sometimes we're proud, right? I mean, we are in the know. We have lots of experience, and we don't necessarily want to tell people about things that might be going on, right? Because it can be embarrassing, but it shouldn't be, because this is happening to lots of people, and not just seniors, military personnel. Why do you think they're at risk? They move a lot. Sure. That's a good reason, right? So what are other reasons? I think that's the biggest one. They move around a lot. They're in different places. They may be not only moving around a lot, but maybe they have to move at a moment's notice. You know, so lots of reasons for that. College students. Why do you think college students? And I would say really anyone in that age group, 18 to 25, are for sure big targets. Why? They believe what? Wait, I want to hear this.
They believe most of what they read.
Oh, yeah, they believe right, if it's on social media, it's true. Yeah, that's our next session. We'll talk about that. What else? Any other reasons? Yes, sir. They're careless. Careless with what? Okay, okay. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think I can agree with that. For sure, I would say they are not the best at protecting. Remember I talked about your non-public personal, your financial information? What do they do with their information? They give it to everybody, right? They share it. They're invincible, right? Okay. What's that? I thought someone said something. No? Okay, we're all on the same page. So who are these fraudsters? So I don't want to make people paranoid. When you walk out of here, you're not going to talk to anyone. You don't talk to your friends, your neighbors, your children, because they all could be fraudsters, right? Your caregivers. No, everyone is a possibility. Don't be paranoid that way. We just want to give you the tools to recognize when it's an issue. But they can come in many forms. The saddest thing is that the highest percentage of fraud is perpetrated by family members. Sad but true, right? Taking advantage of the fact that we have money, right? Caregivers. There's some great ones out there, but of course there are some that aren't so great. Friends, neighbors, acquaintances, attorneys, right? Can you believe that? That could happen, right? Financial advisors, right? So you just have to be careful about, with whom you're speaking and providing information. Right? That's a good picture, right? Yeah, everybody loves this picture. But it's pretty accurate. You know what? And these folks that perpetrate these crimes, because they are crimes, also they like to impersonate or pose as telemarketers. Can you believe that? Can you believe a telemarketer would be? Right? Utility companies, right? They're calling you up to say you owe money on your electric bill, and oh, by the way, don't worry, because you can pay us in gift cards. Have you heard that? Right? So if you learn nothing else today from me especially, I would say, or from our group, if anyone ever asks you to pay or says it's okay for you to pay in gift cards, there's a huge red flag that goes up, and on it, it's waving and it says fraud. There's no way you're ever going to have to pay, or you have the option of paying a legitimate company in gift cards. Computer experts. Oh, suddenly you're on your computer and a message comes through and there's a problem, right? On your computer. So, maybe we need to go in there and you need to give me your username and password and let's talk about what's going on and see how much money's in your account. Home repair contractors. This has been going on since before computers, right? Showing up at your door, the roof doesn't look so hot. Give me, $500, I'll be back tomorrow. Sure you will. Medicare scam operators. We've heard about that sometimes, and we'll talk about this. Friends or alleged friends or family who say they're in need of help. Then you've got people posing as the IRS. How about that one, right? That's a good one, right? IRS, you owe us money, and it's okay, pay us in gift cards, you'll be all right. And then the worst for us as Dedham Savings is there are fraudsters out there posing as financial institutions. And we've had customers who've received calls from Dedham Savings, not really Dedham Savings, saying, oh, there's a problem with your account, let's go in there, let's see what's happening. And we will never make calls ever like that. And your bank, if you don't shop at bank, nobody gets to really shop at a bank, right? If you don't bank at Dedham Savings, you bank somewhere else, I will bet my life on it they don't make these calls either. Okay? That's who the fraudsters generally are, or how they who they pose as. And they use lots of tactics. And one thing they take advantage of is, well, the fact that we're trusting, right? And they're so friendly and kind. You're not going to get a fraudster who's going to get on there and say, well, let me back up. That's not true. Most of the time they're kind, but then they also could be, they use pressure tactics. So maybe they're not so kind. So there was one circumstance I recall where I can't remember what the fraudster was posing as, but basically said if you owe money to the IRS, I think it was, and oh, by the way, you need to pay me now, and if you don't, we've already called the police. This is true. We've called the police, and they're actually up in your neighborhood right now, and what they do is they call under some other pretense the police saying there's a disturbance, and they pick an address or someplace close by, and you look out your window, this person looks out the window, and there's the police car coming down the street, right, but not really coming to their house. But my point is they use pressure tactics. So saying that they're going to cut off your services or that you owe taxes, and if you don't pay, you're going to be arrested. But they also prey on your kind and generous souls, right? I'm sick, or there's a family member who's sick and I need money. We're going to get into those scenarios. I need money to come and visit or to go visit a friend or what have you. So, but the biggest ones are this friendly tactic or the pressure tactics. They typically will start out asking for small amounts of money maybe and then keep calling you back, and then they're asking for more money. And then, as I said, they often use the gift card as a way for payment or a wire transfer. Why do you think they like to use these two forms of payment from you? Yeah, you can't trace it, you can't stop it. Once you wire the money out of your account, you say goodbye to it. Okay? So those are some of the tactics. Now we're going to talk about the latest and greatest. I'm only going to talk about one. I'm going to talk about the grandparent scam, and then I'm going to turn it over to my friend Gina here, who's going to talk about some others. But the grandparent scam, have you heard about this one? You got two of them. Oh, yes. Okay. Of course. Yes. Yes, that happens. A lot of fraud is thwarted by the front lines at banks. They're trained to do that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But this grandparent scam is quite something, and I see that there's some who've had multiple calls, right, on this one. Did you want to say something? Mm-hmm. Right. And so you're going to be on our next road show because that's the story that I wanted to relay, and you have done it beautifully. That's exactly it. And your family member, your mom, was lucky in that sense. And this happens so often, and I won't tell the whole story, but this happened to my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law is pretty funny. She sat on the phone and she listened, and because they called and said, "Hey, Grandma," and it was a distant voice, and then went on, and don't tell Mom and Dad, and at the end of it, my mother-in-law said something to the effect of, "You should be ashamed of yourself. I know what you're doing," and she knew because nobody calls her Grandma; they call her Nana, right? Yep, yep. Click. Right, right. Good. Very good. Good story. Thank you for sharing. That's the grandparent scam. The key here is just what you did, is to call another family member. Call the parents and say, "Hey, is this, where is Joe or Susie or whoever it is? And here's what happened to me," before you send any money to anyone, because it's typically a scam. I'm going to get off this stage and give the mic over to Gina. Okay?
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to start with, this is only my second presentation. I've been in the department for over 10 years. I know this information very well, but I'm a little shy and a little nervous. So I have to start there, but we're fine. So the impersonation scams, Carol had touched on a bit of it, where whoever this individual is, what they're doing is they're pretending to be someone else. Their goal is to connect with you in whatever way they deem is going to be most effective. They want your money. They want to separate you from your money is basically their goal. That's their number one goal. So as she mentioned, you may even receive a text message or a phone call, and it may reference Bank of America or Dedham Savings or Sharon Credit Union, whatever. And it'll give you a little message that they're trying to tell you that they want to prevent fraud on your account. So did you do this $5,000 transfer? Press yes or press no. But if either one that you press, then they capture your phone number and they call you. And they pretend to be the bank. And then they want to help you fix the situation. So as she mentioned, they'll ask you to go onto your home computer, log in. They may ask you to, they're asking you all sorts of questions. They're trying to distract you a bit. And if you're in your online banking, they can truly transfer money where you're not seeing it from one account to another. And then they'll say to you, "Oh my goodness, there's been a very big mistake here. We inadvertently, deposited money, made a credit to your account. We need you to send that back to us." That's where the wire transfer request comes from. That's where the gift card request comes from. They're very good at what they do. I mean, that's their job. There's a very smart individuals, and they banter with you, and then they work on what you respond back to them with. So we can go to the next, Laura, please. One of the most popular is the romance friendship scam. So this is the second favorite slide. The hair is wonderful. What they do is they'll either, again, all of the same avenues Carol had mentioned. It can be by mail, it can be over the phone, it can be on your computer, you could be in a chat room, you could be on Facebook. But someone will befriend you. They'll get to know you a little bit, And then all of a sudden, the request for just a little bit of money. I just need a little bit of help. Or I'm out of state and I lost my laptop. I can't possibly cash this check and I really need this money. Can I send it to you, deposit it, and can you send me the funds? Sometimes they'll even say, you know what, I'm going to write it for a little bit more than what I need. You know, keep it for helping me. I really appreciate it. You deposit the funds, you withdraw it and send it. They now have your money, but the check's going to be returned because it's drawn on an account that doesn't exist. So that happens quite a bit. Okay, we can go to the next. The disaster relief scam is another very popular one where recently we had the really bad hurricanes in Florida. I mean, that devastated quite a bit of area. What they do, the fraudsters will go in, they'll pretend to be with a relief agency, they'll request donations. Also, what they do is they'll post, I mean, their homes are gone. They'll post on multiple different sites, you know, you can rent this home, we're gonna rent it to you for a very low cost, you know, to try and help victims. You know, you call, you may send a check, you know, you're interacting with them. The listing doesn't exist. It could be an office building. It could be a home that truly just doesn't even exist on that street. They're very, very clever. And basically what they're doing is they're looking to profit off of someone else's misfortune. So how rotten is that? You know, they have no scruples. They just want your money. And it doesn't matter how they get it, they just want it. I could have the next slide, please. So, okay, so this is obviously related, but what they'll also do is they want to pressure you. As Carol had mentioned, it's always a sense of urgency. Oh, I'm sure you've heard about this disaster. I mean, the recent one in Turkey and Syria. They'll pretend to be from a reputable agency, you know, and they'll say, we really need you to donate today. You know, how can you get this money to us quickly? These poor people need help. But your money's not going to anyone that needs it. It's going right to them. So always use caution when a disaster comes up. Obviously, you know the disaster's real. You're seeing it on the news. You're reading it in the newspaper. You're talking to your friends about it. But always do your research. If they say they're from the Red Cross Victims Fund, there's no such thing. We all know that the Red Cross is a wonderful agency that helps people on a daily basis. But they'll take the name and they'll just change it a bit. It's a name you recognize, so your first instinct is, you know what, I can help a little bit. I'm gonna do this. But be wary. And as Carol mentioned, they request cash. Once you've sent it, sometimes they'll even tell you, we'll send you an overnight envelope for you to send it back to us. This need is desperate. You send your cash to us. Or the ever classic pay us in gift cards. You know, but one thing that you got to remember, even if you're on the fence, you think it's legitimate, you're not certain, they're asking for gift cards. In the disaster relief or charity scam, that almost makes sense because they could give the gift cards to the individuals that have nothing. All their clothes are gone, everything's gone. But then they'll ask you to scratch off the back of the gift card and read the numbers to them. Once that happens, the funds are gone. You can't go back to Walgreens and say, you know what, I was duped. You know, I bought these gift cards. Can I cancel the transaction? You can't because the funds are already gone. So just be aware and wary, but be aware more importantly. The remote access computer scam, I'm sure just about everyone in this room has heard of this one. If you receive an email that you're not expecting, but it appears to be from a legitimate company. The Geek Squad at Best Buy, Norton Antivirus. They'll contact you and they'll say, you know what, your subscription ran out, or there's a problem. We can see that there's a problem on your laptop or your home computer. Let us help you. You know, they're talking, they're distracting you. They may ask you to download a certain program, but what you don't realize is they're in your computer. Or if you get an email that, you know, looks like it's from a legitimate company, you click on it, you could have just introduced something into your computer that you're not even aware of. So they could be seeing what you're typing. You know, you could hang up and say, oh no, you know, I'm done with this phone call. They're very persistent. They'll call you back. They'll call you back. They try and wear you down. So as I had mentioned previously, you used to be able to rely on your caller ID. You know, if it said Dedham Savings Bank, you would feel pretty confident in picking up that phone. But as Carol had mentioned, we will never, ever call you and ask you for your online banking credentials. Never, never. And the other thing that they do more often than not is they will ask you to as I mentioned, log into your online banking. They'll switch things around. They'll, you know, then they can see how much money you have, what your balances are. And even if you ever allow remote access to someone who you thought was this person or this company, and it turns out they're not, or you weren't sure, you got nervous, you hung up, they still have seen your bank accounts, they've seen your balances, they have your online banking credentials. Immediately call your bank and let them know that it happened. You know, sometimes they'll only get you part of the way there, where you haven't given all of it, but you know, you may have said, okay, I bank at such and such a bank. You know, I have a checking and savings, but I only gave them my debit card number. That's all they need. That's all. But I didn't give them my debit card number. I only gave them my account number. That's all they need. They can go online and start paying bills online with your bank account. So if anything even remotely sounding like that, let your bank or your credit union know right away. Okay, we can go to the next, please. Now I'm going to give it to Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name's Laura, if you don't remember. I'm now going to take it now to what happens if you are a victim of a scam. So in all of the incidents and types of scams that we just reviewed, we should really talk about what to do if you are a victim and what to avoid. So for example, the remote access scam, making sure that if someone's contacting you about remote access, that you say, okay, I'm going to hang up. I will go to a reputable website, find the correct contact information from Apple or McAfee, and contact them and see if there's actually a conflict with my computer. Don't ever allow them to remote into your computer if they're initiating it. So making sure in all of these examples that you are taking control of that phone call or email and making sure you're going out. Same with the disaster relief. You're going out and making sure this is a reputable website, asking them, please send me information in the mail and I'll do my due diligence and send it back. So just making sure that you are in control of how you're approaching these situations and you're doing your research as well. So once these fraudsters in all of these types of scams, they're trying to get your personal information. Once, like Gina says, they get a piece of that information, they can get additional information from many other sites, including, I don't know if anyone's heard of our last conversation, our last presentation. We kind of went in deep on this dark web, and people were asking me to explain the dark web, and I was like, I don't know how to use the dark web. But, you know, once they get a little piece of information, they can get a lot more on sites like the dark web. But some information they're trying to get is your social security number, your date of birth, your account number, card numbers, credit card numbers, online banking passwords, usernames, anything. Once they get any of that information, what they're going to do is account takeover. They're going to try and take over your credit card accounts, your bank accounts, your computer, which probably contains even more private information than just account information. I know Gina went into it a little bit. They can transfer money in and out of your own account. So it looks, you're viewing your online banking and you say, the fraudster says, oh, I accidentally just deposited $5,000 into your checking account. You look at your checking account and it is $5,000 more. Oh, okay, yeah, I believe you. I'll send it back. But really, they just transferred it from savings. So just making sure you're aware of all your account information. They can order new credit cards or debit cards, do change of addresses, anything if they have a little bit of information. And then, like I said, they can sell these credentials on the dark web. We've done a presentation in the past with our information security officer, and he gives these great statistics on the dark web. And he has it broken out into, if your checking account has, $1,000 and under, they could sell it on the dark web for $200. But if it's $5,000 to $25,000, you could get like $500. So, I mean, it goes into different ranges, your credit limits, and if the fraudster can sell 5 account numbers and make $10,000 in a day, I mean, I'd take it. But so this is hard to read. I know it's in white, but in 2020 alone, account takeover represented 54% of all fraud-related events. So it happens way too often, and it's sad. But some ways that you can safeguard yourself and your information. Don't leave personal documents out in plain view. So I know a lot of people in this room probably have people coming and going from their home, whether it's family, friends, maybe cleaning services, caretakers, food delivery services, anything that is you're welcoming into your home. Again, we're not saying not trust everybody, but just being mindful if your desk or your kitchen counter or kitchen table has maybe some bank statements, and just making sure that you're putting things away, shredding things if it's not needed anymore. And I know that's hard pill to swallow sometimes, of letting go and shredding things, but it is probably your best friend of shredding unnecessary documents. Signing up for direct deposit, it limits that physical check in the mail. A lot of mailbox theft going on. If you've heard in the news, those blue USPS boxes are getting robbed. And not only are the boxes getting robbed, but the mail carriers are getting robbed for their little keys to enter those boxes. So just any way you can limit checks in the mail is beneficial. Like I said, shredding financial trash, always a good idea. And monitoring your bank and credit card statements regularly. So I know you probably get a monthly bank statement or credit card statement, and sometimes it's even better if you do have the online banking that you can monitor that even a little more frequently than monthly, just because, as we've talked about, once these fraudsters get money, I mean, they don't waste any time. That money will be gone. So reviewing your credit report annually. So there are 3 major credit bureaus, Equifax, I do this every time, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. I almost said CarMax. Oh, wrong thing. But so each of those, you are entitled to a free credit report. So even if you're going annually, so if you go to each of those 3 times a year, that's 3 a year you get. So making sure you do check that regularly if you are a customer of Dedham Savings, and I know a lot of other banks do this as well, so you can check with your bank. But on our mobile app, we also have our free credit reporting and score anytime, so you can check with your local bank if yours does that as well. Making sure you have strong and unique passwords, making sure, I know it's easier said than done, not having the same password for everything, not having your passwords written down on a piece of paper under your keyboard. Our privacy officer is here. She does this at our work to make sure we don't do it at work too. So it's hard to remember. There's passwords for everything, but just try not to have, especially your online banking or credit cards the same as everything else, you know? Maybe try and keep those ones separate. Multi-factor authentication. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this. I actually just learned about it within the past couple of years through work, but it is just it's an additional layer of protection for passwords. So if I were to go log on to my online banking, I enter my credentials, I hit enter, it brings me to a next screen, and it's linked to mine is linked to my phone, so I would get a text in with a code. So then I have to enter that code to keep going. So it's, if the fraudsters had my username and password, they could enter the first step, but then they wouldn't get that second step code. So a lot of applications utilize multi-factor authentication now. So if they do, we always highly recommend using that. Keeping your devices up to date. So all computers, everyone should be using antivirus software on your computers, making sure it's updated regularly, making sure you're tracking if it's updated and not, their McAfee is not going to call you and say it's outdated. They have way too many customers to track if your computer's outdated. So making sure you have it and you're updating that regularly as well. And always thinking before you click. So these scammers, like we've talked about, are sending emails, text, phone calls, making sure if an email comes through and it looks too good to be true, that you're not just clicking. You're actually doing your due diligence on if it's a reputable sender, a reputable company. Even if I'll get something in an email, like retail shopping, for example, and oh, that shirt looks really cute. I kind of do like that. I'm not clicking in the email. I'm going to get off. I'll go to their website and I'll find it that way. So that's always a safe option. So if you are a victim, and first and foremost, I mean, we can say we probably have identity theft. I don't know, maybe at least 5 to 10 customers a week. And it's nothing, I mean, it happens so regularly. Like Carol touched upon in the beginning, there's no no rhyme and reason on who they're getting. They're just getting everyone and anyone. So making sure that if you are a victim, you're following these kind of next steps. First, you're reaching out to your bank and letting them know that you have been a victim of some sort of fraud. There is an option on all of the reporting agencies that you can place a fraud alert or security freeze on your report. So an initial fraud alert is going to be just an alert. So if a fraudster gets your information, tries to open an account somewhere, you're going to get an alert saying, this account was opened. The account can get opened, it's just alerting you, but at least you can say, I didn't open that Kohl's credit card, and go shut it down. The freeze actually stops the fraudster from even being able to open the account. The only downside to the freeze is it also stops you from opening an account. So if you know you want to go open an account somewhere, you have to call, remove that freeze, open the account, and then call and put it back on. That's obviously the safer of the two options because nothing can get opened at all. However, just remembering if you go to a store or a bank or someone to open an account, or if you're going to buy a car, just making sure you're removing that before you go to do that. We already talked about making sure you're looking at your credit report regularly and always filing a police report. I know sometimes, you might hear these stories on the news and you don't know if there's ever a resolve and if these people have been caught, but the police really do. We work very closely with the police. They're getting as much information from us. We're giving them as much information as possible between check images, surveillance images, IP addresses if we have all of that. So they are working to help at least catch the person, like we've talked about in some of these instances. Once the money's gone, it is gone. But if we can at least catch these people, that's always saving grace as well. And who can help? So again, we're not asking you not to trust any of these people that we talked about in the beginning. You do have trusted family and friends, trusted bank representatives, making sure you always feel comfortable. If you receive something in the mail that you're really not sure of, it doesn't even have to be a bank statement or a check. I mean, if you received a letter in the mail that you won something, you can always call someone at Dedham Savings or at your local bank and say, this is what I received, and they should be able to walk you through whether it's legitimate or not. This is an amazing facility. It looks like there's some great resources here that you could utilize if you also received a phone call or something in the mail as well. Adult Protective Services is amazing. I've worked with them a lot, and they are just very responsive in helping. Local police. These two websites are great resources for keeping up to date on what's going on in the industry. So mass.gov and ftc.gov. Both of them keep updated information on scams that are in the news and where you would report things and who you would report them to. So those are great resources as well. Yes. Federal Trade Commission. Mm-hmm. And then our dedhamsavings.com/security website is very similar. We try to keep it up to date with scams that we're seeing, what to do if you're scammed, resources that can help you. So I think this presentation is also there, but I can work with Debbie and see if we want to, if you guys would like the presentation, we can send it over to her and she can have it at the desk. We also have some flyer resources that have some information that I can get over to her too. But that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Kind of flew through that today, I feel like. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, lots of questions. Yes.
I have actually a couple of questions. The first one is, if we need to store our passwords at an accessible place, what are some places you could suggest that we store them?
Yeah. That's a good question. There are, and we can ask our information security officer to give us some resources, but electronically they have what's called password vaults. So it's on your computer, but you log into this one system, and then it houses all of your username and passwords.
Is the bank familiar with LastPass?
I've not heard of that one. Is that like a password manager, though?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a very safe option. Maybe if you have a personal vault at home, at least it's locked away. Yeah. Just not under your keyboard.
The other question I have, and I'm not sure I can word it correctly, but I'll try. What is the bank's responsibility to you as their customer when some authority, and it could be a disguised authority, comes to the bank and they want to know everything about all these customers? What is the bank's reaction to that? What are they? Are they? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a victim of a scam, what is the bank's?
I'm just talking about somebody comes into the bank and they need to know all the customers that.
No, we don't give that out. No. Yeah. No, so the only time we would ever give out customer information is if we were subpoenaed information from law enforcement or, yeah. Or if you called and said, I'm a victim of this scam, I'm working with the Walpole Police, could you please provide this? And they usually subpoena us too, though.
So now here's the latest when it comes up about Medicare. This is all over the place. Put in your name, your social security, your zip, and we'll call you in 5 minutes to see if you qualify. Is this sort of thing really legit? I mean, this is all over I get tons of these all the time. You know, here's a hotline. Give us your name, your social.
Can I just have your password?
Now this is just, and it goes in and it says, okay, give us your social, and an agent will call you in 5 minutes. If you are over
Again, I would say you go to the actual website where Medicaid, like I would never click on something you got, you know?
In 5 minutes, someone calls me, Mr. Kennedy, how are you? And I'm going, whoa,
Qualify Medicare.com.
Quote.qualify Medicare.
I would
So
say no.
I would go right at, so when you're, I wouldn't do it. What I would do, like Laura said, is you call directly to Medicare. Yeah.
But you get those.
I mean, it looks like, that's my bank card, and it gives all this thing. We'll give you up to $900 for groceries.
Well, actually, this came up in our last presentation because didn't the woman say she reached out and they were like, will call you to set up an like a thing. Remember, was that her?
was for Social Security.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
But that, so what you want to do is go online and find the real website for Medicaid.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah. But see what I mean? Just see,
Yeah, yeah.
under 60, you know,
well,
what
the
and
other
then,
thing is, if it sounds too good to be true,
Yeah.
it is.
oh, I am eligible, 1-800.
You know what, I bet I'm eligible too, maybe we should, let me just
$900 for groceries.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, I get things all the time, and I'm going, are you kidding me? You know, yeah, you got $900 in groceries. You know?
I'll tell you what happened to me. I got an email from UPS, and it said I had a package, and it needed the $1.95 postage on it. It was not. So I gave them the check from my bank on that, and that was fine. The next day I checked my checking account. They took the $1.95. 2 days later, I thought, where's that package? I went onto my bank account, and they had taken $699. So I called the bank, and they stopped the credit card, and I got it back from the bank.
Wow, that's.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one yet.
You know, it said, post office, USPS,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
and it was only $1.95.
were you expecting a package?
There was no package.
But you weren't expecting
Well, I
one.
ordered a lot of things by mail.
Oh.
You know, and it said postage due $1.95 on this package. So I paid the $1.95, and they did take
Mm-hmm.
it. from
See,
my bank
again,
account.
you go right to the
And I looked,
USPS.
It was still not, and I thought, where's the package?
Mm-hmm.
And the third day, $699, they took out my credit.
Wow.
Was that a phone call that you received?
No, it was an email.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it said USPS, and it had the little.
Yeah. See, again, if you get something like that, you go right to their website, call them, and say, "This is what I received."
No, just gonna say, we can't hear a thing that.
Oh, sorry.
Unless you repeat the question or whatever.
I know. I gotta start passing this around.
I just want to say, as to getting computer scammed, one of the things I have found, if you get a message that says that your computer's, going to be down, and you contact them right away, you need to put your computer down. Do not contact. If you go and click on it and they tie up your computer, and it costs hundreds of dollars to try to get it out again.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you just want to shut your computer down completely. Don't go click on it, or if you call the number, you're gonna get frozen, and you go. Because my aunt did, and her daughter had to spend hours and hours trying to get it back up. And it would have cost hundreds of dollars. to get
Yeah.
it back online.
That's one thing. It is more of a hassle. Once we find out a customer has given remote access out, we do ask that we deactivate their online banking, and then we ask you to get your computer cleaned, show us a receipt that you've gotten your computer cleaned, and then we'll open your online banking. Because like you said, you might log off, or you might disconnect from the remote access, but you don't know if there's something in the background that they've placed on your computer. So that's just a protection. Yes.
I think people should be alerted to the fact that if they order anything online and you have a problem, because I got caught, make sure you're on that company's site. I ordered something from Amazon. Right after I put in my charge number, so I got frightened. I didn't know if they had the order or not, or if I was going to receive it. So I went and I I keyed in Amazon customer service, and it was a big mistake. It wasn't their site. And they asked me all kinds of questions that they ought not to have. And finally, a light bulb went off when they wanted my my cell phone number. So I would alert everybody, make sure they're on the company's site.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. But that's, yes, one big thing we're honing home is going and actually going to these company websites and making sure that you're doing the research and finding the correct customer service and not relying on them to say, no, here's our customer service information, and using that.
And what's interesting, within seconds, I got
a call from security. They caught it. So, of course, the police and all the rest of it, but always be sure you're on their site.
That's great. Thank you. Go in the back.
How do you know if you're on the right site?
How do you know that you're on the right site?
You know, like she said, you call, you punch in Amazon, and how do you know if it's legitimate Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah, so making sure that you're looking at the web address at the top, and if it's Amazon.com, but if it's Amazon1.com, or they do have that, like what she's saying, the little secure symbol. Yes, lock. Yes. So on the little bar where the web address is, there's like a little lock. It's a little symbol, and it's showing that it's a secure website. Unless you're looking for it, it's hard to look for. But
Doesn't have anything to do with Dedham Savings, but credit card scams. I mean, I've always checked my statements, and last week I checked it, and I saw some charges that I had not charged. And the other interesting thing was Easy Pass. 2 charges for Easy Pass, which, I said to myself, it got to be somebody local who has my credit card number.
So you have very specific rights when you use your credit card they're dictated. That your credit card rights are dictated by federal law and state law. Massachusetts has very strict rules, but the federal laws are pretty strict too. If you ever look at the back of your statement in that grayed out language that nobody ever reads, that's where they tell you that you have these rights under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, Regulation Z. So if you see on your credit card statement charges that don't look right to you, you have to notify the credit card company, and they have to investigate and address the issue. So actually, people at the bank hate me when I do this, but I feel like it's always better to use your credit card than your debit card. Sorry, because you have protections when you use your debit card, but you have better protections when you use a credit card under the federal laws. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. You do, however, have to check your statement, because if you wait too long, after a certain number of months, you no longer have that right. And you can't get a person? Nobody talks to you?
When you finally get someone to talk to, you can't understand them.
Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you about that. But then you go to your statement, and you look to see what your rights are and what exactly you can do. But, yeah, then you know what? Then you hang up and you call again and see if you get somebody different.
Can you email them and for someone to call me?
I don't know that. It depends on the bank that has the card, so I don't know that they offer that. But yeah, if I would just say to that, you just call someone else. Hang up and call again, because there are a zillion people that work for those companies.
They have call centers, and they go to other countries.
Yeah.
So I've done this in the past because I can't understand Indian when it's spoken over the phone. Okay. So I asked it to speak to an English-speaking or American I get a call back.
Okay, yeah.
But I had a question about.
Yeah.
I'm selling a car, and this just happened the other day. They came out of the woodwork as soon as I put it on Craigslist. I got all kinds of emails and text. So they want to buy the car. One guy wants to buy the car, and he says, "I'll send you a cashier's check."
Yeah,
Okay, so he says, you'll go to the bank and cash it, and when it clears, I'll send a carrier to come and pick up the car. And then he asked, what condition is the car in? So he should have asked what the condition of the car is in. So initially, from what I understand, it passes the bank initially, but it takes almost 2 weeks before it can finally pass.
So the cashiers?
The bank and the teller can cash it, but it's not a real check. It's a counterfeit check. So that the teller's been duped, but then when it goes through the process of trying to, that check goes back to the originating bank, and they say, no, that's a fraudulent check.
Yeah, it could take.
happens with deposits. We deposited a large amount of money into an account. It took 2 weeks, and they did it in steps.
Yeah, the process can take a while, and that's why yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, there's a difference between how long it takes to process the check versus when your funds, if you deposit a check, would become available
Well,
to
it
you.
seemed like it was legitimate, but there were red flags. His grammar was atrocious, and his name was Jordan Peterson or something like that. When I knew right off that he wasn't an American.
Yeah, so
he-
if you,
it-
so you trust your instinct in these.
The grammar was wrong.
Yeah.
It sounded like.
Yeah, these are tough situations, and sometimes you want to trust because yes, you're trying to sell the car, but and sometimes people are on the other end of it when they go to buy the car and they.
Who's buying it without seeing it?
Yeah, well, some people, I know of a police officer's daughter who went to buy a car. They sent the money, and they went to get the car, and there was no car there. So it's tough.
If something happens on your credit card which you recognize to be fraud and you can't get the person that answers the phone to understand you, ask for the fraud department.
Yes.
I know from experience that the people who work for credit card companies don't necessarily understand the fraud process. As soon as you get through to the fraud department, they will handle everything very quickly, very efficiently, and everything will be sorted out.
Yes, that's great advice. That's great advice, absolutely. And sometimes too, when you're going through and they say if your card has been lost or stolen, or you press that number, they tend to have people who are. But you're right, they have fraud departments that are much more savvy. Yes.
Do credit card companies have a fraud department?
Yes. Yes. They should. If they don't, they have problems. Yes. Where am I going? Why am I doing this? What
I had my hand up. You were there, now you're here.
I know, this is what happens at home too. I'm all over.
One of the things that you kind of indirectly present here is the fact that if we're really listening, we are the people that have time.
Yeah.
We have time on our side. If you get an oral call or if you get an email, there's no rush. If you make some kind of a decision that it's not much, it really isn't what you think it is, you don't have to panic that it's happened. You have the time on your side. They don't, because they're going on to the next person. So if you kind of just be aware, then you've kind of beat the system.
Right.
The other thing is when someone mentioned about my son's in Canada and he's in jail, my answer is leave him there.
Yeah, I think that would be my husband's answer too, but we can talk about that later. But that's great advice. Yeah, on both counts. Yeah, especially if it's not him, right?
What kind of fraud protections does a credit card company have? Because a credit card company notified me that there was fraudulent charges on my card. They were for $3.21 and $5 and some cents. And they recognized that as fraudulent.
Yes.
And I verified that they weren't my charges.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what the credit card.
So the credit card companies, so first of all, that's the perfect example of what happens with credit card fraud. It's that they try little amounts first because you say, oh, it's $3.25, could have been whatever, I must have done something, whatever. And then they test, and then next thing they ramp it up. And the thing is that if you follow the process correctly, the credit card eats it. And the fraudsters know that. But right, so you don't have to pay for that, but you want to follow the process and make sure that you inform them. Well, in this case, they informed you, but this is in it. They have systems set up that they can that are beyond my pay grade to understand that that fix that.
Essentially, with the credit card companies, they have some algorithms that know your general purchase situations and if something, that's what flags.
They know your behavior. And interestingly, too, in your bank, so we've had this happen, right, where we have the nice thing about banking at a community bank is that oftentimes if you're a regular person going in or whatever, that they know who you are and they know, we know our customers. And so if if Carol Lewis comes in, and Carol Lewis never spends more than $30 on anything, and suddenly she comes in and she wants to pay someone, $30,000. Does that make sense? That the teller's going to say, "Huh, Miss Lewis, what's happening? What's this all about?" And I say, "Well, I met this guy online, and he needs $30,000 to come and visit me, and my husband's really upset about it." But so you get my point, though, that the credit card companies and the community banks are able to do that too, to some extent. So we have great people. Did you want? Well, yeah, we'll get your question, but we have a lot of great people that work on the front lines that are able to thwart these situations, and they're not trying to pry into your private business. They're really trying to help. Yes.
I was just wondering what they do when they clean your computer.
Oh, that's right. You asked that question, and I rudely walked away. Yes. So we don't know. I don't think there's soap involved. That's all I can tell you. But does anyone here know? They just say, "We clean it." No. They don't take out your information. But you know what? They go and they look for like Trojan horses. They look for any kind of viruses. That's really what it is. I mean, I was being a little bit flippant. But yeah, they clean. They make sure that there are no viruses or anything hidden into your computer. But they won't clear out all of your information, or we'd never have our computers cleaned. Yes.
I recently had a charge, and it was $399 for a firewall. So I called the number, and they were very persistent. And I kept saying, if this is real, why aren't they just going slow? But they just wanted to get the information. So unfortunately, some of it I gave. So I went down to Dedham Savings, and Jamie, who was her associate, did a wonderful job. Got a new account.
And this lady is not a plant, just so you know.
No, but I can't say enough about Dedham Savings. And she told me to go and get it cleaned, which I did. And she said to go to the police. So I went to the police station and gave them the information I had, all the phone numbers. And I said, I hope something can be done. I have no idea how they get all this information.
Yeah. It was an email. It's unfortunate because it's great to report it to the police because they're trying, and there are federal agencies that are trying, and these people, they could be next door, they could be across the seas, so it's hard. But that's.
When you get that grandparent one, like I got twice, do you go to the police with that?
Sure, absolutely. Let them know. There was a. What was the case with a woman? It was a grandparent scam, and the guy said, "We're going to come to your house and pick up the money." And she called the police, and he came to the house, and they arrested him. Yes, they did. Well, there was someone else over here first. Yes.
I just wanted to say I have accounts with a bank, not Dedham Savings, but I can put alerts on all my account, any or every account, and whenever I hit or make a credit card purchase, I haven't pulled the card out and I'm getting an email that a purchase was made. Yeah. So I figured it was good for me so that somebody else I saw an email with an alert about.
No, that's great advice. Yeah, those alerts are great. Take advantage of those at your bank for sure. Yes, ma'am.
I have to say one other thing. I used to I did in savings for years. Okay, but I do use it online, and I do check my debit thing because I did have one point where it was picked up pretty quickly because I checked mine and even at the office, and I was able to go in. They printed out a copy of what the thing, and I was able to find 4 or 5 in one day. And they were, like you said, small because it was the beginning, but there was like $200 or $300 in one day that came off of the account, and they were able to reverse it and whatever. And there was, you just got to kind of, if you can use the online and keep a track of it, and it's easy enough to go to the bank and have them resolve it.
Absolutely. Those are the good stories. Yep. Anyone else back here before Are we, any other questions, any other comments? You share a lot of great information, and we take this with us and we bring it to the next folks, and the advice that you've provided, we really appreciate. There's still, there's one more question, and then take the food with you, because
What's the rate of prosecution of these people? Do they find them?
what's the rate of prosecution of these people? You know, that I don't have an answer to, and I would say that a lot of these people are not found, but I don't have any statistics for you.
The cyber fraud where they're doing these purchases is a lot harder because they are hiding behind a computer. But where we're seeing a lot of resolve is on the check fraud side. So we're able to catch them or attempt to prosecute them on the check side. But the digital side it's tougher. Just they're hiding behind a computer and they wipe that computer, move it to a next one, and so yeah, that one's a little tougher. Yes.
Okay, I've been with Dedham Savings for 25 years. And I will say that I have basically all my stuff with you. And I've had a couple of times where somebody from the office has called me and said there's something wrong with one of your accounts. Well, instead of calling that number he's given me or that person's given me, I've called the person like a VP, because I knew a VP and I knew somebody else. I said, okay, who's this person? Before I will return that call. So if you know somebody in the bank, like one of the assistants here in town, call him and say, hey, I got this call from so-and-so. Is this guy legit in the office? Absolutely. And I will tell you, it's saved a lot of heartache. So.
You guys can call Carol Lewis. She'll get all your. Thank you guys for coming.